Coming to you live from downtown Phoenix, Arizona at the Forrester B2B Summit. I was trying, Karen, to do my radio voice there. I don't know if it really came through.
I think you started off strong and then you were conscious of it.
No,
so
I was. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. Right before we went live, Karen Bedell, the CMO at Coattails, she mentioned that she was a college DJ. Can we talk about that first, please?
Yes, I will tell you, I started off with the worst time slot ever. Some might call it Saturday night. Others might call it Sunday morning at 5 a.m.
5 a.m.?
5 a.m.
Oh
5 to 8:30.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is like gospel brunch, or what did you do?
I mean, there were times that I would come straight from a party and just keep the beats going. I'm really into Britpop, so I played a lot of stuff from the archives there, but eventually got smart and brought a co-host on to help keep me awake for that session.
Can I tell you that when we do like the regular recordings of Sales Pipeline Radio remotely, we hardly ever have the time to get into this kind of stuff because I don't know.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Like, Forrester, please bring us back next year. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
So excited to be here. We are recording a series of Sales Pipeline Radio episodes live on the Marketplace floor of Forrester B2B Summit. So excited to be here and excited to have Karen Bedell here as our guest. She is the CMO at Coattails, former college DJ. So I was not a college DJ. I have one step below that. I was in my high school radio broadcasting club.
Ooh.
There were 5 of us.
Okay.
And basically what we did is we just practiced reading commercials into a tape recorder. It was just about practicing the voice and the cadence and everything. But I really liked it. And then when podcasting came along, I'm like, finally something I can do with some of that radio voice. That's amazing. We also bond here about our Remarkables, right? So like I got my Remarkable taking us, you pulled yours out. What is one of your like power functions on the Remarkable? For those that are listening that are also Remarkable fans, what's a power tip?
Well, I'm a former journalist. You're going to learn a lot about me in this 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Former journalist, former content marketing practitioner. So I love importing PDFs and doing markups and sharing that with the team.
Okay.
Hard to sometimes decipher handwriting, but that's a quick tip. And then I have a running weekly to-do list. So start your week on the Remarkable. It's a template. And then I can just fill it in. This is what my focus is for each day of the week, and I just keep adding a new page every week.
I'm gonna need to see this. We were talking about handwriting with your colleague here before we got started. Mine is also terrible. My first grade teacher told my parents, and I still remember sitting there where she told my parents that I was going to have terrible handwriting. And I'm like, how dare she? And she's an oracle, because very clearly, I can barely read this half the time.
Yep.
My first job out of school, I was a reporter for the Bremerton Sun. I studied journalism and political science and was sure I wanted to be a journalist for the rest of my career. And guess what? Journalism beat it out of me.
Yeah, same. Yeah. I resigned on my 1-year anniversary after being a police reporter in the city of Chicago at the City News Service.
I didn't even last that long. I literally didn't last that long. And then I remember calling my parents and telling them I found a PR job. I got an intern job at a PR firm that does mostly Microsoft work. And I was terrified anyway. I wanted them to be supportive. And my parents, bless their hearts, Midwestern, same job for 35 years. They're like, but you chose journalism. This is what you chose to do. What are you doing? And that was the downward spiral to where we are sitting here today.
It still comes in handy, though. And you know, I like to talk about journalism gave me my foundation as a marketer because it helps you be innately curious and ask good questions and get to the why and find different angles of a story to piece together the full narrative. So I credit that. It was 1 year in police reporting, and then I pivoted to entertainment, which was a lot more fun in my early 20s. Yeah. But yeah, it's a strong foundation to build upon. So
yeah, I totally agree with you. Like I tell people, it's one thing to learn how to write, but what journalism taught me was how to tell stories and tell stories distinctly. Like when I went to the Bremerton Sun, we'd have these complex issues happening in state government, and I'd have like 4 inches. For the kids listening, 4 inches, basically you literally measure the amount of space you have in the printed newspaper. I know a lot of what I just said is foreign, but basically like think about it as like a character limit and a very small one. And you had to summarize complex issues into something that made sense in, I don't know, what is that, like 150 words? It was like ridiculously small. And so being able to storytell in a format like that, I think that's a great skill. Totally. Anyway, all right, so we've already wasted 5 minutes talking about all this thing, but hopefully that's interesting.
That's the fun stuff.
That is the fun stuff, absolutely. I did want to talk about a couple other things that I know you're very passionate about and have done a great job on and are really important, I think, to everybody listening. The first one is just cross-functional alignment.
Yeah.
We can sit here and have all the plans we want in the world, but we're not going to tell anyone else what to do. And if we're building our plans and then forcing it on other people, we're kind of doing it backwards anyway. Talk about the importance of cross-departmental integration, but what are some of the keys that have made that successful for you at Coattails?
Yeah, part of it, I have to say, is how I'm wired. So if anyone follows Pat Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team and Working Geniuses, I'm a galvanizer, and I'm also strong in tenacity. So I really work hard on focusing on that alignment with team one, your executive team, who's leading sales, customer success, product, marketing. We should all be in sync. We should be on the same song sheet and making sure that our teams are working in alignment and interlocking their plans. So part of that comes with building personal relationships with those individuals. And then it is in finding points of alignment between the teams. What projects cross over? For example, we have a great customer community and we engage a lot of folks through ongoing education and resources that might also come to life in a webinar, and marketing is playing a role in that. So there's initiatives and programs that naturally allow for that cross-functional collaboration, but I think you have to model it with your peers on the executive team.
I love that you bring up sort of that team one, which is the peers, which I think a lot of people, it takes a while to learn. A great book called Team of Teams by retired General Crystal that talks a lot about how to integrate those teams and build that trust and alignment from the top down. One of the other places that I know you have focused a lot, I want to come back to that in a minute, but I want to talk about your focus on customer community. Our first episode here on the floor was with Conga and their customer success marketing team. And they won an award here, the Return on Integration Award, for the work they're doing. And one of the highlights for them was community. And you mentioned community as well. What are some of the keys to building strong community for Coattango today?
Yeah, it feels weird talking about this with you because you're an expert in community and I'm part of the CMO Coffee Talk community. But I often talk about community with a big C and a small c. So you can talk about the big C with a community platform and that organized function. You can also talk about all of the different touch points that create community amongst your buyers or your customers. And so with that, we have a few critical elements. We do have a community platform. They're able to engage in conversations and content. We also have a customer advisory board that helps create connections with our key accounts at that executive level and their peers. And then we like to engage in the broader community of customer success and go to market so that we're fostering conversations and connections about what are the pain points people are grappling with. Yep. I mean, in the age of AI and in the market that we've all been dealing with, there seems like there's a new challenge popping up every day like whack-a-mole. And so finding ways to bring folks together for a virtual roundtable or grab a table at a live industry conference and just fostering that and connecting the dots for people is really key.
And I think one thing people don't realize is that if you create a community that is about the community and not about you, it still reflects on you, right? And it sometimes seems counterintuitive when I talk to people about building a community. They say, well, we really want to bring our product into it. I'm like, take your product out of it. Create a community of your customers and let them commune with each other. Like the most successful sustained communities I know are those that foster that connection and care amongst community members. And there isn't a single community that does that well that doesn't directly benefit from that. People 100%. Don't want to leave the company because they don't want to leave the community, and they value that as part of their connection to the product or service as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. People aren't just buying your software these days. They're buying the experience, the expertise that you provide, and some of those community connections that you offer as well.
Talking on this episode of our special Sales Pipeline Radio at Forrester B2B Summit with Karen Bedell. She is the former college DJ and current CMO, Chief Marketing Officer at Coattango. Let's talk about another element of community, which is customer advisory boards.
Yeah.
I talk to a lot of companies that want to do it and then aren't necessarily sure how to invest in it or sustain it. Talk about the importance of that at Coattango, how that got started and how you sustain that.
Yeah, well, I was lucky when I joined the company almost 3 years ago that there was a CAB in place. But what I wanted to do was really create more of a mission and a purpose for the customer advisory board. You touched on it. This should be about them. This is not about us. Sure, we want to bring them in on the conversation early, show them a sneak peek of the roadmap, get their input. But at the end of the day, it's creating a community to connect these executives that are focused on driving the industry forward. And that's all about how do we deliver recurring value to our customer base? How do we invest in our customers to ultimately drive growth for them and for us? And so that's what really brings us together at the end of the day. We went through and formalized a charter that details the mission, the purpose of the cab, the expectations for attendance. We have quarterly meetings, 3 virtual, 1 a year is in person, and the topics that we'll cover. And so that charter goes out every year when we invite members to rejoin or when we invite new ones to join the cohort. So they know there's a little bit of a contract in place. And I think that helps set everyone up for open discussions, for really being a little bit vulnerable in some of those community discussions. And we learn so much from each other. And I love seeing when 2 cab members connect offline and carry on the conversation because they found a way to help each other through a situation.
I love all of that because I feel like a lot of customer advisory boards are somewhat performative, that they're set up as a PR thing, right? Where we just want to have a nice dinner and talk about things. And what is talked about isn't activated afterward. There isn't a direct connection you create amongst those customers. And so those elements we talked about earlier of a great customer community or great industry community, you want to have that amongst your cab as well, not only so you build that trust and respect, but also so that you get the real actionable insights out of it. Because if you're not getting like hard truths out of that group, like this isn't an everything's hunky-dory thing. You want them to bring up those hard conversations. I think sometimes I tell people, think of this as like a different board meeting.
Yes.
Right? When you go to the board, like you don't want this to be everything's fine. You want the hard questions to come up. You want to grapple with things together in a collaborative, constructive way. I think cabs need to be like that too, right?
100%. And they should really be a bellwether for you and your teams on what's happening in the industry, within your product base, within the way that those cab members and their teams are interacting with folks across your company. What is the collective brand and customer experience that they're going through, the perceptions of you that they see in market, but also what are they seeing and hearing in the way that their own companies are navigating challenges outside of your product relationship that you might have with them.
So you're now a member of a customer advisory board as well. I know you work with G2. What have you learned from that experience? What has that specific experience helped you think about what you might want to do differently for Coattails cab as well?
Yeah, it's fun to sit on the other side of the table. I will say that. And we just had our Q1 virtual meeting, which was awesome. It was nice to learn a little bit about G2's research and what they're seeing in the marketplace. That teed up a really rich discussion with our peers around the impact of SEO in the age of AI and how companies are dealing with that. So we had an incredible discussion, and I loved how open it was and how engaged every member and the G2 execs that showed up were in that conversation. It had nothing to do with products and, you know, what you were going to buy. It was what are we grappling with today and tomorrow, and how can we help each other be better?
So we're sitting here in Phoenix. We're past sort of calendar Q1. We're well into the year so far. What are you seeing in the market as a B2B seller, as someone who's managing cross-collaborative go-to-market teams? What are we seeing in the market overall, and what do you expect to see the rest of this year?
I am seeing still a lot of challenges with driving that alignment across the go-to-market org. But what's been interesting is the rise of RevOps that I've been seeing. Whether the RevOps team is rolling up through a CFO to play Switzerland with the GTM team, or they might roll up through a CRO, increasingly because data is so important and how we leverage AI and automation, the RevOps leader is really the glue that helps everyone stay in tune, get ahead of problems before they come up. And so that's been interesting. I don't know if we've found the magic sauce for that one yet, though, because I think it really does depend on where that team sits, and go back to our previous conversation on, is there alignment?
Well, part of the reason why we continue to struggle with fixing that is the rules continue to change.
Yeah.
And you think about layers of, I don't know if it's layers of the cake or just parts of the matrix. You need all that data to talk together. Right. I need data from my different marketing campaigns to talk to each other. I need data across sales and marketing to talk to each other. I need all that data to be leveraged by the CS team immediately to seamlessly onboard customers.
Yes.
And that's just the data you have. Now let's talk about the data exists about your customers, your prospects, your market, your partners, et cetera, out in the ecosystem. Let's talk about how AI can like translate that into insights that didn't exist elsewhere, but where machines can see some of that. And how do you integrate that together? Literally in our last interview with Conga, Nora brought her CS Ops counterpart and talked about the same challenge, right? Yep. And I think that, to me, solving that problem has to be a very high priority for go-to-market teams. Data is the new coin of the realm in B2B. It used to be how much budget do you have, how much media are you buying, how well we capture, activate, and leverage that data feels really, really important moving forward.
100%. And there's two, you've got your structured data and your unstructured data as well. So if you think about all the people in your company that are engaging with a customer account at different points in their journey, you need to stitch together not only the utilization and consumption, but sentiment. You need to understand if someone emails a CSM or an AE on your team and drops a hint that they're unhappy. This isn't how do we feel. This is the data surfacing those insights, stitching it together with some of your other metrics and finding a way to get ahead of signaling your team that there's risk in the system. Right. So it's going to help us all get more proactive. But right now, I think we're all swimming in this murky sea and trying to figure out how it all works together.
Last question for you here as we kind of wrap up. Have Karen Bedell, the CMO at Coattails. Why do you come to events like this? I feel like since COVID happened, like all of a sudden video conferencing is everywhere. The keynotes you could watch on YouTube. Why is getting out of the office or getting on a plane and coming something like this continue to be so important for folks?
This stuff energizes me and gives me that boost that I need to keep going. I was never built to work from home for the entirety of my career. So I do come to get energized, get inspired, seeing people in real life, bringing that LinkedIn profile pic or a 1-inch Zoom thumbnail to life is so magical. And I think that it helps us all take a big leap forward. When our executive team gets together for a couple of days to have a discussion, or if I get to see my team like I am today, I think we are able to just take a huge leap forward that could take 2-3 weeks over coordinating calendars and Zoom calls.
I completely agree. I am an introvert. I consider myself a fairly socially anxious person. And somehow I get to places like this and I do feel energized. Like you get to see people. And I think even for those of us that like are comfortable like working with sweat shorts at home, our lizard brains want to see other people. Our lizard brains want to connect with other people. And just doing it on a screen isn't enough. Like literally seeing people, shaking hands, seeing the whites of our eyes in person, it is meaningful. It doesn't mean I want to be on the road every week, but it means things like this where a group like Forrester can get like this many people with the same job together.
Yep.
Really, really valuable.
I'll say one more thing if I can.
Yeah.
When you hit leave on that video call, you're probably alone in your room or your home office.
Yeah.
You come to an event like this and you find community in a shared challenge, and it's validating. And I think it gives us all that confidence that we're not alone and we're going to find that solution together.
Well, you just think about like we're about to click stop here on this recording, right? And normally if we were doing this remotely, we'd be like, okay, great, we're off to our next meeting. We're probably going to talk a little bit about journalism and remarkables and other things again, right?
Yeah.
And so it's that connection, and that is the connective glue that I think is like, forget business. That's just at the heart of being alive. I don't mean make this too existential, but I think the longer I live, the more mistakes I make. Those connections are everything. So Karen Bedell, CMO at Coattails, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks so much for having me, Matt. This was fun.